Hey everyone, Ronin here, and welcome back to the channel. We got a lot to cover today, but before we get into that, we gotta do the usual shout out of one of the supporters of the channel. So, Jonathan Johnson, thank you very much for that support. And also, you guys, analytics are very important, so please take a look at these numbers right here, and don't forget to drop a like and a comment, so that way we can help fuel the algorithm. And if this is your first time on the channel, please make sure to hit the subscribe and turn on notifications, so that way you'll never miss another upload from the channel. But with all that being said, let's get into What If I Wrote the Pokemon Anime, Part 15. I hope you enjoy. We follow up with Jesse, James, and Meowth as they are returning to the Rocket Game Corner upon their glorious failure to recruit Erica to the ranks of Team Rocket. The three are trembling with each step as they have been putting off returning to the base out of fear of what Giovanni would do to them. However, it seems the trio are going to be in for a bit of a reprieve, as while they are entering the main domicile where the headquarters are and Giovanni's office is located, they are met with Matori rather than the boss. The champion's assistant informs the trio that Giovanni isn't too happy with what they had done, as burning down the gym was not the plan. However, since Giovanni has had some other things that he has to attend to, it seems that the boss is willing to give them a pass, considering that if Erica didn't want to join them, at least she'll be preoccupied with the rebuilding of her gym. So it seems that the trio has escaped the wrath of the boss for now. Collectively, all three of them let out a sigh, as they were fearing the worst when they had entered here. However, they immediately stiffen up when Matori tells them that they do have another mission, and they don't have any time to be lazy. This one comes directly from Giovanni himself, and if they screw this up, then they can kiss their careers with Team Rocket goodbye, and possibly their existence in this life as well. Matori then hands them an envelope and informs the trio that they are to head to Viridian City, which causes Jesse to mumble a bit, asking if they're gonna have to break into the gym once again. However, Matori tells them it's the exact opposite. They're gonna walk right in the front door. They have a very specific mission that they have to carry out. They're to get the new gym leader that Giovanni chose to take over and bring them to the boss. Giovanni has been watching the boy for a while now and is impressed at how far he's grown over the last couple of years. The leader feels like he could be a very valuable asset to the Team Rocket organization, so they're to retrieve him and bring them back to the main base just outside Viridian City. Giovanni will be there in 2 weeks' time, once he is done conducting his business on Cinnabar Island. So if you wish to avoid the guillotines for another day, I suggest you get moving and try not to fail, Matori says, before she turns, walking off, leaving the three to stand there as all three of them contemplate the success probability of this mission. Immediately, James is doubtful that they have any chance to actually do this, considering that the gym leader that replaced Giovanni is one of the most powerful, if not the strongest in the region. While Jesse, on the other hand, is getting real sick and tired of being the errand boy for everybody around here. The way they're being treated is downright criminal. However, Meowth, to the contrary, pops its claws and slashes them across the face, telling the two that they need to pipe down. They didn't exactly fail their last mission, and they were rewarded with another chance to get back in the good graces of the boss. So whether they like it or not, they need to take this, and they need to make sure that it gets done, because none of them want to be involved with the alternative. As Jesse and James begin to daydream about the creativity of Giovanni and exactly how he can make that come to fruition, this causes a shiver to run down the spine of all three of them as they begin to set out plans to make this mission a success. Now we're going to change views as we follow up with Misty and Ash as they are heading to the destination of Cinnabar Island, where the letter from their friend Brock said he would be. However, before they get there, they're going to be forced to traverse a mountainous canyon area, as this is the most direct path they have to take to the port that will lead to the volcanic island. The two have been walking for a couple of days now, and they're beginning to show wear and tear as they haven't really stopped. Both Misty and Ash want to catch up with their friend so that way they can make sure he's alright, and secretly they both hope that they were able to catch him before he actually gets to Cinnabar Island. But unfortunately, even though no matter how much they hurry, they haven't been able to close the gap between them and the Pokemon breeder. Luckily though, they're on the last leg of their journey, as they have found themselves in a place called Grandpa Canyon. It's here, looking at a map, that Misty points out that this place is famous for having Pokemon fossils. Ancient ones that used to roam the land and sea show up here all the time, and it's not unusual to see all kinds of archaeologists and people that are just random fossil hunters digging in the surrounding areas, trying to strike it rich with any one of these ancient treasures. Ash immediately goes to say something, however he's interrupted by a violent shaking as a cloud of smoke and an explosion of rocks comes from close by, causing all three of them to duck and cover, hoping that they won't get hit by anything. However, while the explosion was enough to be felt in the ground and they could see the rocks actually flying, it wasn't big enough to where it was going to cause anything to fly in their direction. So as they both pick themselves up and dust off the dirt from ducking and cover, they prepare to head down into the canyon to get a good look at what they had actually seen. This is where a voice asks if they're here for the fossil exploration, to which our duo of heroes turn to see a boy that can't be much older than Misty, who dons a cape with red spiky hair. No, we were just passing through, Ash says, to which Misty confirms, nodding, saying that they were just on their way to Cinnabar Island, and this was the most direct route. It's here that Ash then reciprocates the question, asking if he's going to be trying to dig up any fossils. However, this merely causes the boy to chuckle, as he finds the sheer audacity that Ash would suggest he would like to wield a pathetic rock type to be somewhat of an insult. This causes the two to begin to argue, which forces Misty to step in and break it up, but this doesn't get any results. It's not until Ash and this boy get into each other's face and Pikachu gets got in the middle and lights them both up with a thunder shock that all of the hostility begins to dissipate. While the boy is a bit sour about what just happened, the tempers have cooled a little bit for them to finally get a proper introduction going on, to which Ash and Misty both introduce themselves by name, and Ash of course introduces his partner Pikachu, while the boy introduces himself as Lance, a trainer that specializes in the flying type. It's here that Misty begins to see why he took such offense to Ash's comment, as there's no other type that a flying type expert would disdain more than a rock type. It's here that Ash and Lance make a brief apology, though it's still a bit sour between the two, as they don't really see that either one of them did anything wrong. However, Misty with her fiery temper tells them both that they better mean it, as she's not going to be the one to deal with their pathetic outbursts for the rest of the day, or they'll be forced to deal with her. This causes the two boys to gulp, as there really wasn't any intention of setting her off. However, this does calm things down enough to where everyone can have a normal conversation. This is where they find out that Lance is actually on his way home to Viridian City. This is where Misty comments that Viridian City is awfully far away from where they're at, so what would bring him out this far? To which Lance comments that he had heard rumors that there was a flying Pokemon out here that was made of solid ice, and since he prefers flying type Pokemon, he thought he could use something that would also offer some variety to his team. So he came out here, but unfortunately, all of his efforts in searching over the last couple of weeks have come up short. So after all of his leads dried up, he decided it was time to head home, and this is where they are currently. Ash begins to say something, but is again interrupted by a violent tremor as another explosion rings throughout the valley. This causes the boy to get a bit of a sour face as he looks off in the direction, scorning those that interrupt his attempt to talk every time he moves his lips. However, this is where Misty is going to suggest that they head down. Maybe they can find a rest spot. After all, they have been walking for quite a ways, to which Lance is more than happy to, considering he's been traveling for a couple of weeks as well. Even his Pokemon are tired after all of the flying that they've done, so they could use a spot to get a good rest. And word is that even though there's a lot of blasting that goes on in Grandpa Canyon, there still is a spot for tourists and people just passing through, a Pokemon Center that sits at the base of the canyon, so they should be able to find a good place that they can rest for the night before they head out. Liking this idea more and more, as Ash's stomach is now rumbling and he wants to get something to eat, the boy immediately heads into the canyon, with the blasting getting more intense as Misty and Lance both look at him, as the Flying Master inquires if Ash is always like that, to which Misty simply nods her head, saying, "You gotta kinda deal with it as it comes. He's a bit difficult and a bit dense, however he means well and he's a good person, so you just gotta go with the flow when it comes to him." It's here Ash yells from the distance if Misty and Lance are coming. If they don't hurry up, then they're gonna get left behind, to which the two immediately break their conversation in favor of running and catching up with Ash. But unfortunately, as the three go running down into the canyon, they're going to quickly find that the Pokemon Center that they're looking for is on the opposite side. So they're going to have to make their way through the entire canyon, which is deeply upsetting to Ash. However, the frustration that Ash begins to feel is only going to be amplified, as one person that he always has an issue with comes into view, as none other than Gary Oak is spotted as he is in front of Ash holding a rock of some sort, as the two boys lock eyes. It's here that Gary begins to taunt and tease Ash, asking Ashy Boy if he is here to find a rare fossil Pokemon, to which Ash says no, he just wanted to get through, but he figured since how Gary was here, he would stop to try and find one. But Gary simply comments that Ashy Boy is too late. Gary has been digging here the last couple of days, and he has found all of the fossils, pointing to a cart that is stacked full of rocks. I'm afraid that this well has run dry, Gary says, as he taunts Ash for always being late to the party. This is where Ash gets frustrated, saying that he is not late to the party. He's been making great progress. He then reveals his 4 badges, confident there's no way Gary could have as many as he does. However, this is going to be exactly to the contrary, as Gary simply smiles as he opens his badge case to reveal that he's already gotten 7 of the badges in the Kanto region. So, once again, Ash is behind. This causes some more teasing on Gary's part, which ends up leading into a full-blown argument between the two, as Misty and Lance finally are able to catch up with Ash and rejoin him, only to see him in a full-blown argument with Gary. While Lance doesn't know who this boy is, Misty does, as she explains that he's Ash's rival from Pallet Town, and he's always one step ahead of Ash, and it's something that Ash doesn't really seem to like. So that's why they're arguing at this current time. And just as Misty gets done explaining all of this, they overhear Ash challenging Gary to a Pokemon battle, to which at first Gary simply chuckles, explaining that there's no reason for him to battle Ash. After all, he actually has more badges than him, so it would be just a waste of his time and confuse his Pokemon. However, that's when an old man comes up to Gary, telling him that this entire dig site is about to be closed down. They've run the course of trying to find any fossils that are in the area, so they're gonna have a break for a little while. Then after that, they're gonna head back to the Pokemon Center. Well, would you look at that, Gary says. It looks like I'm gonna actually have some free time and a break, so maybe I could help it go by a little bit faster by beating you in a Pokemon battle, Ashy Boy. Excited that he's gonna get a chance to finally battle Gary for the first time since they were in Viridian City, Ash tells Gary that he would like to have a 2-on-2, to which the Oak Boy happily obliges him, saying that he can have as many Pokemon as he wants, but that's not going to change the outcome. All the while, both Misty and Lance watch on, quiet, with an intensity, as Lance has taken a great interest in this battle between both Gary and Ash. And in the background, other groups of fossil hunters have continued blasting, trying to mine out any type of fossils that may still be hidden within the walls of the canyon. However, this is going to be drowned out by Gary and Ash, as the two have taken positions across the canyon from each other to give themselves enough room to enact their battle. Gary is so thoughtful that he decides he's going to give Ash a handicap, so he makes the first choice, as he pulls a Pokeball from his belt and kisses it, calling it his baby, before sending in a Pokemon known as Houndour. Pulling out his Pokédex, Ash learns that this is a dog Pokemon that is half dark and half fire type. The boy is going to have to be careful, as the dark typing could complicate things for him here. However, Ash thinks he has the perfect Pokemon for this, as he declares, "Squirtle, I choose you!" As the water type pops from its ball with the cry of its name, Gary comments on Ash's Squirtle, saying there's no way he could have gotten that from his grandfather. He thought that he ended up with that lousy Pikachu. Ash confirms this, but he says that he was able to make friends with Squirtle when it was in the wild. So not to underestimate it. Just because it's not a traditional starter doesn't mean that it isn't strong. Isn't that right, Squirtle? To which the tiny turtle Pokemon lets out a brief cry of its name before the signal of the battle is given, and both it and Houndour are engaged. Even though Gary is at a disadvantage when it comes to typing, he still feels confident, as he thinks that Houndour's level is much higher than Squirtle's. However, the boy is going to find out that he is vastly wrong, as Squirtle was actually previously owned by another trainer. And that's the little bit of tidbit that Ash decided to leave out, as he and Squirtle are able to make quick work of Houndour with a combination of Water Gun and Rapid Spin that drives the doggo into one of the canyon walls, quickly knocking it out. As Ash and Squirtle celebrate their first official win in a battle together, Gary recalls his pup, frustrated that Ash was able to get a win. Now, while Gary contemplates his next choice for this battle, this win has caused Ash's head to balloon a little bit, as he gets a little overconfident. But Gary aims to let the hot air out of the boy, as he reveals his next choice, sending in his fully evolved Nidoking to dampen Ash's hopes. However, Ash doesn't see this as a problem, recalling Squirtle. He merely sees this as an opportunity to show Gary what he's been able to do with the Pokemon that he was so sure belonged along with him, as he declares, "Nidorina, I choose you." As the middle stage poison type pops from the ball, Gary is a bit surprised that Ash was able to do anything with it. "So, you were able to get that pathetic excuse for a Pokemon to evolve. Well, it looks like it's become a little bit stronger, but I still don't think it's going to be able to beat my Nidoking," the Oak Boy says. However, Ash tells him not to underestimate his Nidorina, considering he has no idea what it can do. Gary simply smiles, stating that they're going to find out real quick, as he gives a command to Nidoking to use a double kick. However, the fully evolved poison type doesn't move. It just stands there, staring at Nidorina, leaving both it and Ash a little bit confused. However, the boy doesn't want to waste the time for this free opening, as he gives Nidorina a command to use a double kick. Quickly, the middle stage looks back at Pikachu, kind of giving a glare, trying to intimidate the mouse before it sprints forward and delivers a double kick to the gut of the opposite gendered mon. This gets Gary a little bit frustrated, as he demands that Nidoking snap out of whatever transits it. They have a battle to win. However, this pattern continues, with Nidoking unable to really do anything, as it just remains entranced with Nidorina, as the middle stage just continues to deliver horn attacks and double kicks to its gut, slowly whittling down the health of the Nido before it takes its knee, as it's on the verge of collapsing from all the damage that it's taken. This causes Gary to begin to yell at the poison type, declaring that it shouldn't be acting like this. There's absolutely no reason why Nidoking shouldn't be obeying his orders, and that he absolutely refuses to lose to Ash. However, just as Ash and Nidorina begin to deliver the finishing blow, another explosion rings throughout the valley. However, this one was much more intense, as the quakes violently shake the valley floor and the walls. This causes rocks that begin to tumble down into the valley, but this is the least of the worries, as just a little bit ways away, Ash and the rest of the people that are in their group begin to see another group that are running towards them frantically, like they're trying to get away from something, and it quickly becomes apparent what that something is, as directly behind them, the valley floor is caving in on itself due to the large explosion, opening up the roof to a cave that was beneath them. The people that are running make one last ditch effort, jumping for any type of safety that they can get. Luckily, they're able to outpace the collapsing valley floor, as it stops just short of the battlefield that Gary and Ash were using. This entire event has captured the duo, stopping their battle midway. This is where Gary and Ash both ask if the other miners are okay, to which they nod. However, this brief moment of reprieve is going to be interrupted, as a deep echo comes from within the cave. At first, nobody can make out what that is. However, it's Misty that says it sounds like a hissing, to which Lance seconds, as the hissing slowly gets louder and louder, before 4 entities emerge from the cave and begin taking shots at all the miners and the humans that are around. At first, Ash has no idea what is going on, as it takes Gary to shock the boy back to reality, telling Ash that he needs to get out of the way. These things are angry, and if they don't do something, then they could be their next meal. Quickly, the two boys pull out their Pokédex to identify their attackers. They quickly learn that these Pokemon are known as Kabuto, Kabutops, Ammonite, and Amistar. They're all Pokemon that were of the rock and water typing. However, they've been believed to be extinct for millions of years, only recently been reintroduced into the world by modern science, as they've been able to use fragments of their DNA to bring them back to life. This entire situation is confusing to Ash and Gary. These things are supposed to be long gone. However, here they stand, in the flesh, attacking everyone. While this is going on, both Lance and Misty have used the fact that Ash and Gary are the sole attention of these attackers to their advantage, to try and save as many of the people that were caught in the blast as possible, getting them to a safe space before heading back to try and help the two. However, this is going to put Gary and Ash in an awkward position, as the two are going to have to work together, which they both try to have Nidorina and Nidoking attack the fossil Pokemon. However, Nidoking is still unable to move, and Nidorina is easily overpowered by Kabutops, forcing Ash to recall it. And due to its inactivity, Gary also recalls Nidoking as well. This leaves the boys in an interesting predicament, to which Gary inquires if Ash has a grass type. The boy nods his head. This forces Gary to get a little bit frustrated, because he didn't think he would have to point out the obvious, telling Ash that these things are rock and water types, so a grass type is the perfect thing to take them down. So send it out, as Gary sends out his Execute. Realizing what his rival was getting at, Ash pulls out the Pokeball and declares, "Bulbasaur, I choose you." As the bulb seed pops from the ball, they begin to engage with their attackers. This new duo, with the command of their trainers, are able to easily hold off their attackers, as with this combined of the psychic typing with Execute and the long-range attacks of Bulbasaur, they're able to easily push back all of these ancient Pokemon, using their typing to their advantage. However, while things are beginning to look up at this current time, everyone is going to quickly find out that even though they were on the verge of being able to defend themselves, that was merely just an illusion, as a shriek echoes throughout the valley from deep within the cave. This causes all the fossil Pokemon to stop dead in their tracks, as they begin to shiver in fear. Then, from underneath their feet, another quaking begins to happen, but this time it's not generated by any type of explosions. Quickly, all the fossil Pokemon begin to run for cover, like they are in fear for their life, and they very well should be, as another, far deadlier, more aggressive predator has emerged from deep within the shadows. Pulling out their Pokédexes in tandem, both Ash and Gary learn that this is a Pokemon called Aerodactyl. Just like the other four, it was said to have gone extinct millions of years ago. However, it doesn't share the same typing as them, as it has the dual typing of rock and flying, and this is immediately put on display when the other fossil types head back into the cave to hide, while Aerodactyl makes quick work of Execute and Bulbasaur, as a simple wing attack is enough to drive the two into the valley floor, leaving them with spirals in their eyes. This causes both Ash and Gary to recall their Pokemon, considering what options they have left. They figure if this thing's a flying type, then the only way they're going to be able to battle it is to take to the sky. So Ash sends in Butterfree, while Gary sends in a Pokemon known as Dodrio. While it doesn't have the ability to fly, it does have one advantage that most other Pokemon doesn't, and that's its amazing leg strength, as with the command from Gary, the three-headed bird is able to easily jump up the walls of the valley, gaining enough altitude to put it within striking range of Aerodactyl. However, as Ash commands Butterfree to give pursuit and provide any assistance that it can to Dodrio, the two are going to be immediately met with a rock slide from Aerodactyl that is powerful enough to one-shot both of them, driving them into the floor below as well. Realizing they are quickly running out of options, Ash calls for Pikachu, to which the electric mouse is nowhere in the vicinity, as it is off helping Misty and Lance. It's here that the boy realizes he has no other options. He's gonna have to go with his strongest mon, so he declares, "Charmander, I choose you," to which the fire lizard emerges from its Pokeball with the happy cry of its name. This causes Gary to mutter to himself, how was he able to get all three starters? That's unfair. However, the boy isn't going to have time to dwell on this, as Aerodactyl is back on the attack. But since Gary has yet to produce a Pokemon to try and battle this thing, Ash is left all alone, as he orders Charmander to use a Metal Claw to try and hit this rock type. Charging both of its arms in a steel energy, Charmander leaps for Aerodactyl in an attempt to try and hit it. But unfortunately, Aerodactyl is far bigger than it, and just the sheer size allows it to overpower Charmander, simply taking the Metal Claws as if they were nothing, before sending the fire lizard into the valley wall with a thud that would make you think its short life had just been brought to an end. However, Charmander stands back up at the command of Ash, unwilling to take this L, as it once again chases down Aerodactyl in an attempt to deliver any type of attack. Both it and Ash engage with Aerodactyl as it fires off Metal Claws and Fire Spins in an attempt to cause any damage. However, Charmander is once again met with defeat after defeat after defeat, as it is simply unable to match Aerodactyl in size or power. It eventually comes to a point where Charmander is beaten and battered, and it's unable to really move, merely just looking at it, Aerodactyl, as it's coming in for the kill. This is where Ash pulls out his Pokeball. He knows if he doesn't do something, then Charmander is going to be tonight's dinner for this Aerodactyl. However, just as the boy begins to recall it, Charmander lets out a blood-curdling scream as it begins to glow in an evolutionary light. This causes Ash to stop dead in his tracks, as Aerodactyl is blinded by the light, forcing it to pull up at the last second, as from the light emerges a new Pokemon, a Charmeleon. However, as the light fades and Aerodactyl's vision comes back, it's able to gain a view of what it's going to consider its next meal, as it swoops down and grabs Ash with one of its monkey-like feet, pulling the boy into the air. This causes Ash to flail about as he demands that somebody do something. He then gives a command to Charmeleon to use a flamethrower, to which the fire lizard is able to easily execute, while While this is far more intense than the fire spin of its previous evolution, the fact is that Flamethrower is still unable to hit Aerodactyl, as the fossil simply flies higher with Ash in its clutches. This causes Charmeleon to grow even more frustrated with the situation, as it begins to stamp its feet and blast fire in the air, trying to hit anything that comes its way. This includes Ash, as Charmeleon has completely disregarded its trainer. However, Aerodactyl feels unfazed by this, as once it deals with this Charmeleon, it's going to be able to enjoy its first meal in over 100 million years. This is where Aerodactyl begins to charge its most devastating technique, something that Gary recognizes immediately as a hyper beam. The boy yells that everybody needs to clear the surrounding area, it's about to become a war zone. However, just as he says that, a command is given from a trainer. Noivern, use Boom Burst! Suddenly, a loud pop, followed by what is an invisible force, seeps throughout the area as it strikes Aerodactyl, forcing it into the ground below. This is enough to free Ash upon the collision, as both he, Charmeleon, and Gary look on to see a giant dragon-like Pokemon soaring through the sky in the direction of Aerodactyl. On its back stands Lance, as he gives another command to this Pokemon that they come to find out is called Noivern, for a Dragon Pulse, which it executes dutifully as it fires in the direction of Aerodactyl. This causes the fossil to take back to the air. However, it's nowhere near as fast as this Noivern, as it is able to easily catch up to Aerodactyl with Lance on its back, before delivering a battle-ending attack that's going to send Aerodactyl into a tailspin when Lance gives a command for another Boom Burst, as the fossil begins to dive towards the ground as it's unable to control any more of its flight. Lance decides that this trip isn't going to be a complete and total loss, as he throws a Pokeball at the ancient Pokemon, capturing it in a brilliant display of technique and skill as a trainer. The boy then lands next to Ash and Gary, asking if he is alright, to which Ash demonstrates his love for Pokemon, as he has immediately forgotten about the whole life or death situation, as he goes complete fanboy over a Noivern. He had heard about them, but he's never actually seen one before, to which Lance says Noivern is his oldest Pokemon. It's been with him since he was a kid. It was the one he started out with, so he's glad that Ash likes it. It's actually quite powerful, to which Ash asks if they can have a battle, but Lance declines, stating that the boy's Pokemon have been through the ringer today, so he might want to consider getting them looked at before they try to have a battle. This causes Ash to sigh as he realizes Lance is right, before Gary picks up his shovel and tells Ash that he's a loser. He will always be second best to everyone around him, before turning and walking away, leaving Lance and Ash to look at the boy before getting back to their conversation, as Misty and Pikachu are finally able to join him. However, there is one matter that they have to address here, and that's the fact that Charmeleon, which Ash is immediately excited, as he didn't think that Charmander was ready to evolve. However, it's reached its second stage, and the boy immediately greets it, telling Charmeleon that he's so proud of it, he can see how strong it's become. However, Charmeleon is frustrated with the course of events that have taken place, as it spits a flamethrower at the ground, which unfortunately ignites a wick that leads to some powder kegs that let off another explosion. While this is dangerous for the time being, it's actually a blessing in disguise. As everyone does their best to clear the canyon, they watch as rocks begin to tumble off the walls, sealing up the cave that had opened up. Well, at least all of those Pokemon will be able to go back to sleep down there, Misty says, to which Ash seconds. He doesn't want another issue with any other dangerous predators like the one he just faced with Lance's Aerodactyl. Ash then turns to Lance, asking if they'll actually get a chance to battle someday, to which Lance says he believes that they will. After all, he's taken a vested interest in not only Ash, but the boy Gary as well, as today they've both demonstrated that they have latent potential as great trainers. So when they become stronger, he would like to get the chance to face them in a one-on-one battle. Ash says he can't wait, as he pats Charmeleon on the head. However, the fire type is still irritated with the situation, and he lets out a flamethrower in Ash's face, forcing the boy to recall it, before everybody begins to start laughing at him. Ash gets frustrated at this situation. However, this is going to be stopped when Lance tells the boy that he has to go. It's time for him to get home. Next time that Ash and Misty are in Viridian City, they should come look him up, so that way they can have their battle. This is where Ash yells at Lance as he is flying off, "Where do they find him?" To which the boy simply replies, "I'll find you," leaving Ash, Misty, and Pikachu alone to continue their journey on to Cinnabar Island. And this is where we are going to leave things for now. So tell me, How did you feel about this part? Who is the person that Jesse and James are after in the Viridian Gym? What is Giovanni doing on Cinnabar Island? How did you feel about Ash's whole battle with Gary and the fact that it was uncontested for the time being? And how about the fact that Ash's Charmeleon evolved? How did you feel about that? And of course, this character Lance. Who is he and what role does he play in the events that are going to be leading up? And of course, do you think he is as strong of a trainer as Ash thinks he is, considering he was able to wield Noivern and now has an Aerodactyl? Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments down below. Alright trainers, I hope you have your Pokédexes ready because we met a lot of Pokemon today. The Pokemon that we have added is Charmeleon, Nidoking, Noivern, Execute, Amistar, Kabuto, Kabutops, and Aerodactyl. And that's all we had for today's video. I really appreciate you guys stopping by to watch all the way to the end, and I just wanted to say thank you for that. If you guys really enjoy my content, consider following me on some of my other platforms like Discord, where you can get to know other people who are interested in what ifs, or on Twitter, where I post sometimes behind the scenes updates. Or if you want to help the channel grow a little bit extra, why don't you consider donating like the people right here have, as whatever you could offer could help us get to a larger audience by helping us get new videos done, or some of the projects that we've been more custom art is getting kind of expensive. So we want to make sure that we have the funds to do that. But with all that being said, I really hope you guys enjoyed everything, and I will see you in the next video.